Well, it took him 30 years, but Lenny Henry finally said something funny. From the Telegraph, Sir Lenny Henry. All black British people should be paid slavery reparations. The comedian's book supports case for the UK to hand over £18 trillion in compensatory payments. £18 trillion. He does realise that the UK's got less money than your average tramp, doesn't he? And that's not hyperbolic. Walk past a tramp in the street, you know, a proper, scruffy, crusty, shit-covered hobo with his dog in his lap, right? He's got more money than the British government because he's only at zero and our government is at minus $3 trillion. So I don't know where he thinks the money's going to come from. I'll cover why is this irrational little tirade from a criminally unfunny comedian is laugh out loud funny. Indeed, it's the funniest thing he's ever said in the decades-long charity work that is him having a career as a comedian. And we'll read it and we can digest why it's complete bollocks. But honestly, the British public having to endure him on television is definitely a form of charity work. And I'm not just saying that because I'm picking on him after reading this story. I think if you were to ask every single person in the UK who the worst comedian is and put a list in front of them, he would win it by a country mile. The bloke is not funny. And if he looked like me, he would have been working in McDonald's for the last 35 years. Right then, let's get into this complete codswallop, shall we? Sir Lenny Henry has argued that Britain should pay slavery reparations to the country's minuscule, recently imported black population. The comedian has co-written a book entitled The Big Payback, which supports the case for the UK to hand over £18 trillion in compensatory payments. Lenny has argued not only in favour of a vast cash transfer to Caribbean nations, but for the money to be given to individual black British citizens. Writing in the forthcoming book, Sir Lenny considers the position that all black British people need reparations for slavery, arguing that we personally deserve money for the effects. A supporting section of the book, co-authored with Marcus Ryder, a TV executive, TV executive and charity boss, so probably like one of those Oxfam bosses who travels to third world countries so he can get teenage girls to play with his conkers. He's not doing it to help anyone but himself. And he's a TV executive, so that triples the chances of him being a sex pest, doesn't it? Anyway, he set out the arguments and historical precedents for giving compensatory payments to individuals as well as states. Most of Britain's 2.4 million black population is of direct African descent and therefore not the descendants of people enslaved in the Caribbean. No shit, Sherlock. No shit. Do you know how I know this is true? I mean, this is going to shock you, American viewers. Do you know how I know this is true and I don't need to be a professional historian like David Starkey? I'll tell you why. Because if you walked through Britain in 1980, we're not going back, 200 years, just in my lifetime. If you walked through Britain in 1980, you wouldn't see any black people. No. I know that the BBC's been lying about it, and the mainstream media and Netflix and every other massive corporation has been basically engaging in an Orwellian-style 1984 propaganda campaign for the last 30 years, but there was none. It's a fact. Go and look at your dad's school photos. There ain't going to be anyone looking like Lenny Henry in them. We only started putting race and ethnicity data in the census in the 1990s, and that's because there was none. In fact, I'll show you. The 1991 census was the first UK census to have a question on ethnic group. In the 1991 UK census, 94.65% of people reported themselves as being white British, white Irish or white other, with 5% reporting themselves as coming from other minority groups. Yeah, and of them, 5.35, 5 is Asian, Indians, Asians, Hong Kong, China, predominantly. My mate Fitzy, I swear to God it's a true story, never ever seen a black man in person in his life. And then he told me he bumped into one when he was 17 in McDonald's in Middlesbrough. And when he went outside, he mugged him. Obviously, the fella mugged Fitzy, not the other way around. Well, Did I need to add that caveat? While the fact that none of the people in Britain currently were ever enslaved by anyone is not directly addressed in the book, the two authors argue that as modern racism was brought about by the slave trade, all black people suffer from the effects of racism, therefore all black people should be given redress. Yeah, brilliant logic, that innit? Brilliant. That's up there with, if me granny had a cock, she'd be me granddad. And now we come to perhaps the funniest part of this. Payments can be used to rid the world of racism. Yep, money'll do that. It'll just make people not notice things. Sir Lenny says the reason we have racism today, and why black British people are grossly overrepresented in the prison population, is because of the transatlantic slave trade. The book argues that it is fair for Britain to pay reparations, despite no one alive today possibly having any involvement in the slavery, either as a perpetrator or a victim. The book concludes that not only should the money be raised to hand out trillions in reparations, but that these payments should be used for ridding the world of racism. Amazing. Yeah, because just giving them money, that'd definitely rid the people of the world of feelings, wouldn't it? Like, let's say if we just gave, 10 trillion to regulars at Alan's Marvellous Snack Bar all around the world, I guarantee the next day they'd absolutely love the 4x2s. They'd love them, wouldn't they? They'd be lubing up and daisy chaining around a Christmas tree together within a month of us doing that. Because money makes people love each other. Totally logical and rational Lenny. I think Lenny is so thick, he's not even deserving of the whale spunk moniker. No, he's thicker than that. He's not as thick as Diane Abbott. He's as thick as one of Diane Abbott's flip-flops. The man hasn't got a Scooby-Doo, and I was gonna rebut him with the boring history, but it's boring, isn't it? Because you already know it all. We paid for the slave trade for over a century. 30,000 British sailors died policing the seas and getting rid of a trade that was practiced since time immemorial. For 10,000 years, that's what people did. If you had a big scrap and you won it, you took people, because might makes right. You did it by the right of conquest. If you kicked someone's ass, you could take all their things. That's what human beings do. That trade was as normal as breathing. It was widely accepted and no one ever questioned it, because does kind of have a logic to it, doesn't it? Might makes right. And then all of a sudden, do-gooders, lefty do-gooders, or enlightened men, especially another excellent Yorkshireman, William Wilberforce, I'm sure you all know all about him, pioneered this marvellous idea that maybe it was a little bit immoral, usually based around their Christian morality, to keep people. So the British Empire, after a debate, banned it, and then spent blood and coin for decades getting rid of it. But he doesn't know any of this, because communist, postmodernist weirdos, actors and singers and the like, who get indoctrinated into this ludicrous, rinky-dink ideology that doesn't stand up to 10 seconds of scrutiny, don't know anything about antiquity. This is why they're all so easily led. And they all think humans are blank slates, don't they? Again, this is why they think a man can be a woman can be a man, you can be a man on a Tuesday, a woman on a Wednesday, a furry on a Thursday, because we're all blank slates, and you can just, wipe us clean and do as you please. Tony Blair and all these Machiavellian globalist sociopaths, they believe all of this. That blank slate thing about the human is perhaps the most damaging aspect of the postmodernist, weird, woke, lefty worldview, because it makes them experiment on humans like Dr. Mengele. That's why they think it's not immoral to chop a 7-year-old's balls off. These people are deranged. Those of us that are pragmatists and inhabit the real world know that every single thing he's wrote in this book is gibberish, pointless commie gibberish, as usual. So there's no need for me to tell you that there wasn't any black people in England in the 70s. There's no need for me to point out that we ended the slave trade and we spent centuries paying for it. There's no need for me to tell you that the average black person in the UK probably moved there post 1985. And therefore has got 10 times less to do with the trade than any of the ones in America. At least some people in the States are direct descendants of people that were enslaved. They make a terrible argument as well. Even the Americans aren't seriously considering paying it. But at least they have something of a tenuous link to go off. The blokes in England whose, I don't know, mum and dad moved to the UK so they could leech off the taxpayers in 1993. What do we owe them? What do you think Bukaki Sako is owed off the British taxpayers? Are you living in a logic black hole, Lenny? You absolute log. It's ludicrous. Ludicrous. I think the gaslighting of the whole Western world is a big part of why a lot of people support this. People who don't know anything and don't read books, they'll just see the cartoons, or they make videos like this saying that, look, there was like, look at that one, there's like 6 of them in a Scottish street in 1586. It's a blatant fiction. And even people as relatively youthful as me know this ought to be true. So what say you? What say you? Have you read some kooky history books written by a log of a professor who's gaslighting the public on an industrial scale, and you actually think there was blokes looking like that wandering around the streets of Edinburgh in 1586? So therefore, a plumber from Poland, because let's be honest, this is the other irrational part of it. Not only have the people living in England that are black only moved there in the last 40 years, it's also packed with about 20 million foreigners from like Eastern Europe. So who's going to pay this bill? Yeah, a load of Polish blokes. Do you think a bloke from Poland should have to give Raheem Sterling some money because his mother moved to the UK in 1988? Is that where we are? Where you can tell me that's a rational position to hold? If you can, do your best in the comments, and I will try my best to read the whole thing without pissing myself laughing. All right? Thanks for tuning in, ladies and gents. I'll see you all tomorrow. Toodle pip. Cheers.